Claire was then angry to see that Lortel dared to speak so presumptuously in front of the princess. Not caring about his anger, Lortel then asked Phinia, "This time, we are on the same side, right?" So, she really wanted to give her sincere advice, don't try to use him half-heartedly, because she might end up being used instead. Claire was very upset at Lortel's attitude. He then told Phinia that she should be taught a lesson for her impudence. Hearing that, Phinia then calmed him down. That was enough. She also thought this was really confusing. She couldn't guess what Ed was doing. And now Crefin Roth-Taylor was suddenly involved in the purchase of the Sage's Scroll, but perhaps what was more to be wary of was that brave and haughty girl who wouldn't even bow to the princess, Lortel Ketchum. She also wondered if she could see into her someday, the girl who looked confused and agitated. When Lortel arrived at the Sylvania branch of the Elt store, she was surprised to see Ed and Janica sitting so close together. Seeing her coming, Janica then greeted her and asked how she was doing. Seeing her surprise, Ed just replied, "Things just turned out this way." Lortel then got annoyed at the closeness of the two of them. She then apologized to Janica. She didn't know that she would also come. She only prepared 2 glasses of Pyelanson rosemary tea, so she then asked if she was okay with cold water. But Janica knew that she had intentionally only served her cold water. She then simply said yes, and said it seemed that the tea was stacked up in her company's warehouse. But since it was a product that was sold, she didn't think she could give it to the guests. Hearing her sarcasm, Lortel confirmed it, seeing that she was only served cold water. Ed then said let him drink the cold water, she could drink the tea. Janica happily accepted it. Lortel could only feel depressed seeing the interaction between the two of them, but she then quickly calmed herself down and said, he should take the magic engineering supply first. Ed understood. After they arrived at the treasury, they were then surprised when they saw the items there. Janica was surprised when she didn't see a single grain of dust on the items as if they were all new. She also asked, didn't she say that giving away products for free was against merchant ethics? Lortel felt proud when she saw the reaction of both of them. She also belittled Janica, who could not distinguish the quality of the items. If you look carefully, these were items with many defects. Janica was then surprised to hear that, and checked again. She was then annoyed because she felt that Lortel was doing this on purpose, but Lortel just said that the most important thing was not whether the item could be sold or not, but whether it was useful to help Ed or not. Hearing that, Ed then thanked her, but receiving all this for free felt a bit wrong. And he hadn't even paid for the previous purchases. This was already the 4th time. Lortel just said to keep renewing their contract and it wouldn't be a problem. It wasn't much anyway. Hearing that, Janica then said wouldn't it be better to pay it off as soon as possible and terminate the contract. Hearing that, Lortel said that it was something that she and Ed should discuss. Janica could only be annoyed by that, while Ed himself now seemed to be immersed in something. Once again, a familiar sensation ran through his body. The sensation was like swimming in water. He was overworked lately, which made him experience this often. He had to watch out for Crefin Roth-Taylor, who interfered in the process of buying the Sage's Scroll. It was still about 2 weeks away, so the pressing issue now was that he had to make a mattress for the bed. Maybe he could layer some cloth and fill it with feathers or other textile materials to make it soft. Then he needed to prepare the small deer he caught the day before yesterday. It was also time to clean the inside of the cabin again. Then there was Lucy's jerky. As Ed sank deeper into his thoughts, he then faintly heard the sound of someone calling him. The sound of the voice came from the 2 girls who were currently with him. They looked at him with concern. In the Ophelis hall, Phinia was seen, who looked brooding. He hesitantly thought about whether it was time to really admit it. The way he fished persistently in the camp, and the calm and thorough answers he gave during the Glasgow showdown, the other students said. He was just a student who focused on studying, but what confused her was that Lortel warned her not to underestimate him. She also thought maybe his insight was lacking, so she decided to confirm it once again. To that end, she had ordered him to visit her at the royal residence. She then asked Claire, was tomorrow's schedule certain? What time would Ed Roth-Taylor be? But before she could finish her sentence, Claire anxiously said it seemed that he would not be able to visit for a while. Hearing that, she then confusedly asked why. She really didn't expect that Ed dared to refuse an order from a royal family. Hearing her question, Claire then said that he fainted due to fatigue. Phinia was then shocked to hear that. A system notification then appeared informing him of his current state. He was suffering from fatigue. Among the symptoms: high fever due to fatigue, indigestion, chronic fatigue, dizziness, periods of coma, difficulty breathing, deteriorating vision, magic side effects, and muscle relaxation. The system advised him to get enough rest to recover from this abnormal condition. When Ed woke up from his sleep, he then groaned in pain. He had difficulty breathing, his whole body felt heavy and his lower abdomen was hot, and when he looked down to find out the cause, he then saw Lucy, who was sleeping on her back on top of him. Ed could only be silent seeing that. He also heard Lucy, who was delirious, who told him to reduce the salt because it was salty. Ed was dumbfounded to see that Lucy's body was as light as it looked, or maybe even lighter, almost to the point of wondering if she was really human, but he couldn't move at all now. When his body was overwritten by Lucy, Lucy looked like usual, so he guessed that the problem must be his body. He really felt weak. As he looked around, this seemed to be his cabin, and judging from this new blanket, he guessed it might be from the elf store. Lucy then woke up and said that she was hungry. Hearing that, Ed was speechless. He then asked if she ever did anything other than eat and sleep. Lucy didn't answer his question, and congratulated him for waking up. She then cast some kind of magic, and released it on Ed's chest. Lucy said that his magic was a mess. He forced himself to practice magic while learning spirit magic too, and he didn't rest his body. For months he did that, and this is how it became. Hearing that, Ed then asked, did she do this while he was asleep? Lucy said that it wasn't that hard for her, but it was boring, so she fell asleep a few times. She felt like she was walking on thin ice during this time, and it was annoying, but they knew that this was necessary, so they couldn't protest much. She also asked Ed not to get sick again. Ed was a little surprised to hear her concern. Lucy said that sickness was difficult. Some people even died from it. Remembering her grandfather, Glocked, who died in bed, it became difficult for Lucy to look in his direction. Ed then thanked her. He really appreciated it. While Lucy was healing him, Ed then saw someone who was about to enter his cabin and greeted him. It was Zix. Zix said that he was not sure if he was allowed to use the stove in his cabin, so he lit a fire outside, but when he went inside, he then saw a scene that could make people misunderstand. Lucy was petrified when she saw him enter. She then took her witch hat, and just left from there. She seemed to feel embarrassed. Zix could only be dumbfounded to see that. Zix was speechless seeing him close to so many girls, but he then felt that it made sense. A strong man having many women, it was not so strange. He wondered, is this the so-called openness of this civilization? He also felt that maybe he was looking at social life from too stereotypical a perspective, seeing him so immersed in his thoughts. Ed then asked why he came here. Zix replied, because Janica needed to attend classes, and Lortel came back because she could not leave her business for long. Ed also asked why his hairstyle was like that. Zix only replied that it was autumn. He then fed Ed with the soup he had just made, but when he swallowed the soup, he then couldn't stand the taste. Seeing that, Zix said, what can it be? It might taste better if someone gentle like Aika or Clara fed him, but Lortel said that any girl could not feed him. Hearing that, Ed then thought of checking the scenario as usual. He then asked, did the students of the alchemy faculty secretly grow mandragoras and cause accidents? Hearing that, Zix then remembered and confirmed it. It was Elvira, the troublemaker, but in the end, Taylor and Clebius were able to handle it quickly. Ed was relieved to hear that. Act 2, Chapter 5, Exploring the Academy, seems to be well over. Zix continued. He heard that there was a rumor that Taylor's group subdued a monster that sneaked into the Academy's underground waterways, but he and Taylor already handled that. Act 2, Chapter 7, Demon in the Waterways, seems to be completed without any problems. So now the only big event left is the negotiation of the sage's scroll purchase. Ed then asked, "How long has he been unconscious?" Zix replied, "It's been 10 days. He also said everyone would be surprised to see him awake." Ed was then surprised to hear that he had been unconscious for so long. Zix continued, "But it seems that they won't be able to see him today. Janica still has to attend the academy at this hour, and Lortel had important negotiations to prepare for tomorrow, so she was forced to leave." But Ed didn't seem to hear what he said. Ed thought he had only been unconscious for a day or two, but he could have been asleep for 10 days. He then gulped down the soup forcibly. Zix was then confused at that, not giving him a chance to ask. Ed then called him, and said that he had to send a message to Lortel right now. He felt that there was no time left. The next day after Ed woke up, Act 2, Chapter 10, which was full of variables. The negotiation for the purchase of the sage's scroll had begun. The ones involved are Princess Phinia Elias Kloll, the representative of the Elt Store's leader, Lortel Ketchon, and the man who strayed from the original storyline, the patriarch of the Duke family Roth Taylor, Crefin Roth Taylor, the final boss of Act 4. With a confident smile, he then stepped onto the negotiation table. At the Sylvania Academy, seeing Phinia in front of him, Crefin then said that he was grateful to see her healthy. Although some time had passed now, he had not had the chance to apologize formally. He had heard that she was having a lot of hard times because of one of the stupid brats from his family. As per orders, they had expelled him, but he apologized once again. Hearing that, Phinia then said that it didn't matter. She asked him not to worry too much about it. Looking at Crefin, who was smiling in front of her, Phinia then thought, he had the same bloodline as Ed Roth Taylor. He was also a dignified, earnest, and wise nobleman, the head of a duchy that wielded great power. Judging from every attitude of his attendants, one could feel their respectful attitude towards Crefin, but her eyes screamed the truth as she stared at him. This man was clearly evil. Looking at Lortel, Crefin then asked if she was a representative of the Elt Store. Hearing that, Lortel then stood up and bowed towards him as she introduced herself. She said that she was honored to be here despite her shortcomings. Hearing the name Lortel, Crefin then guessed that she must be the only daughter of the Golden King, Elt Ketchon. He had heard about his insight and adventurous self. Hearing that, Lortel simply said, "They go wherever there's a good profit to be made. After all, they follow wherever the smell of money leads them." Hearing that, Crefin then said that he understood. Negotiations for the purchase of the sage's scroll. The agenda in the activity included: form a negotiation team, have lunch, check the condition of the sage's scroll, and finally confirm the payment method. After collecting the bid prices from all parties, the bidder with the highest bid will get it. The sage's scroll is the treasure of the Sylvania Academy. The Academy does not want to publicize that the sage's scroll is being sold due to financial difficulties, so, Principal Abel Fossius proposed a wise plan. As an eyewitness with princess status, Phinia will authorize this, and Vice Principal Rachel, who acts as the representative of the principal, will hold the auction secretly. The method is made as simple as possible, here and now. The party who writes down the highest bid amount will get the sage's scroll. She has already investigated various book transactions similar to this. After hearing the method: Book of Order, a book that contains a lot of alchemy spells by legendary alchemist Karl, worth 8,100 flan gold coins. Book of Similitude, the only book analyzing biological clone magic in the world, kept in the Royal Library, worth 6,730 flan gold coins. Magic Travelogue, written by the Archmage Glocked when he explored the unknown southern continent, worth 7,020 flan gold coins. Intrinsic magical value, academic value as a research subject, and value as a simple luxury. She guessed that Lortel might have memorized the price and transaction records of more books. Even so, she was sure that the one who would get the scroll was Crefin Roth Taylor. After both parties wrote their bids on the paper, Rachel then said that they had accepted the bid. She also thanked the two of them for their valuable submission. Seeing that, Phinia thought, An auction that is determined by one bid without any limit. The key to this rule is to know the maximum amount that the opponent can offer, Lortel had said. They go wherever there's a good profit to be made. She had already expressed her intention to make a profit. If she wanted to make a profit, Lortel would not bid higher than the most expensive book price of 8,100 gold coins, because selling higher than that would be difficult, and it would only lead to a loss. If Krefin bid just a little higher than Lortel's highest bid of 8,000 gold coins, the sage's scroll would be him's. At least that's how Fenia thought at this point. Not letting them wait too long, Rachel then said she would read out their bid. Bidder Krefin Roth Taylor offered 8,500 flan gold coins. That amount was as Fenia had expected. Krefin Roth Taylor was not someone who would visit the academy to take advantage of a book deal, but the most important thing was why he wanted it to the point of paying such a high price. But Fenia was then shocked when she heard Lortel's bid, which was read out by Rachel. Bidder Lortel Ketchum offered 9,400 flan gold coins. The purchase of the sage's scroll will proceed with the Eltstore. Hearing that, Lortel then respectfully bowed. Seeing that, Fenia confusedly thought, isn't her goal to make a profit? Krefin himself could only be annoyed by that. With Krefin leaving unhappy with his attendant, Rachel then invited Lortel to move to a private room to sign the purchase certificate. Lortel understood, while Fenia herself was still confused, what exactly was Lortel's purpose from the beginning, but she soon realized something, when she recalled her conversation with Lortel at that time. She suspected that from the beginning, Lortel's purpose was only to prevent the scroll from falling into the hands of someone like Krefin, but she quickly denied the conjecture. There was no way she could act for such a great sense of justice. Even if it was so, she herself could only speculate that Krefin was evil, and even with her authority as a princess, she could not find any evidence. She guessed that it must be someone's request or order. There was someone behind Lortel who was controlling the situation. Someone who knew the dark nature of Krefin Roth Taylor and wanted to stop him. As she recalled Lortel, who seemed to be worried about Ed, she couldn't help but think, he had been kicked out of his family and banished to the forest, and even though he lived so hard that he collapsed from exhaustion, he was still trying to fight against the darkness of the Roth Taylor family. Her head was suddenly dizzy as she thought of all these conjectures. Claire was then worried about her situation. She then felt very sorry. She didn't expect to make someone suffer to such an extent. The princess was consumed by a huge sense of guilt, but the princess's misunderstanding might actually be a good thing. Looking at the purchase certificate in front of her, Lortel then pondered for a moment. She also thought, if she sold the sage's scroll to Duke Krefin again, she would at least get 8,500 gold coins back, because she bought it for 9,400 gold coins. So the difference was about 900 gold coins, although she thought like that, but she actually didn't care if this scroll would be sold again or not. She then reread the letter she got not long ago. The letter said, he didn't care if she would sell it again or not, as long as she got the sage's scroll, he could give her any request, whatever it was, offering anything to a merchant. Lortel thought, Ed has made a mistake that is not like him. Permission to access Ed completely for 900 gold coins, that's a bargain. She then happily hugged the letter while thinking of what she would ask for. If the princess saw this expression, she would probably cough up blood. When Zix visited Ed again, he then told him all about the incident. He also said, he should have seen Lortel's expression when he sent the letter. He was also grateful that Aika was a very innocent girl. Hearing that, Ed only replied yes. He also felt that it made sense. Lortel had an interest in him, and she was probably betting on the information provided by the insiders of the Roth Taylor family. He felt a little sorry, seeing what would happen next. While Ed was drinking his soup, someone then visited his camp and was surprised to see him awake. It was Janica. Seeing her coming, Zix then asked, it's not even lunchtime yet. Did she come here all the way from the faculty building? While panting from running too fast, Janica then answered, all her morning classes were over. She also didn't have any classes she had to go to again today, and she was doing her schoolwork tonight. Ed then apologized for worrying her. He had heard everything from Zix, he heard she was a lot of trouble. Hearing that, Janica then immediately denied it. But Zix cheekily said that he saw her running in the academy while crying, and there were rumors spread that she was heartbroken. Besides, she even broke into the academy meeting room at that time. Janica was then annoyed to hear that. She then immediately told her spirit to silence Zix and told him that it was an interesting story, but today's weather was very cold, so she told him to be careful not to catch a cold. Ed could only be silent at that, and Mug, who was hiding in Janica's hair, then looked at Ed with a sad look, with a feeling of guilt. Mug then came to him and asked him to just kill him. He didn't even realize at all that he was pushing himself this hard. Ed could only look at him in confusion at his behavior. Mug said he wanted to bow down and apologize immediately, but he was afraid that his presence would affect his mana, so he instead received mana from Janica. Hearing that, Ed only asked why he was making so much noise. Zix then returned after beating Janica's spirit and said to him, considering that he had been unconscious for the past 10 days, Mug was not overreacting. Hearing that, Ed also felt that it made sense. After all, he had been unconscious for 10 days, but when he remembered that he had been unconscious for 10 days, he then immediately realized something bad. If he had fainted for 10 days, then the meat he had stored would have spoiled by now. The net used to catch the fish was also not taken care of, which probably caused it to tear. He had lost all his food, so he had to start all over again. In the midst of his helplessness, he then heard Janica, who said, "You must be planning to work hard again, Ed." She then told him not to worry, she would help him. Zix also said that he had free time before the next exam, so he could help hunt or process wood. If they took care of things spontaneously, everything will somehow work out. Ed could only be surprised to hear that, and at that moment, he suddenly remembered, not long before, under a makeshift place of wood made hastily with materials he got in the forest, he slept alone in the dark, was bitten by insects, could not lean anywhere. There were indeed many things that were difficult, but in the end, he survived and solved more problems until now. He also agreed with Zix's words, everything will somehow work out. Ed was happy because he was no longer alone. While Janica even felt worried seeing his haggard state, when she saw Ed's state at that moment, Marilda felt that he looked very tired. Janica felt the same way, but Marilda said that this was a good opportunity. This time was the perfect time, because the cunning fox was very busy negotiating and all kinds of things, which made her unable to come to camp often. Janica agreed with that. Marilda continued, in that sense, the fox girl was quite clever. She had a lot to learn from her, whether she liked it or not. If she wanted to target a man, she herself had to become a bit like a fox, first. Her clothes, she looked like a country housewife dressed like that. Janica also agreed with that. It looked very shabby, but Marilda said it was perfect. Janica was then confused to hear that. Marilda explained, unlike her usual lively and energetic self, guys fall for that opposite of her, who's so great at managing everyday tasks. Be sly, subtly show him that side of her is great while pretending not to do it. That's be nice. Janica seemed to get an epiphany when she heard that. Marilda then guided her. She should fold her clothes and tie her hair. The feeling of being a loyal wife who is always together in difficult times with him is good. Marilda then asked her if she was going to meet him today. She then told her to go. She also said that today there should be progress. High wind spirit. Marilda, the romance expert, no dating experience. Janica looked bright when she heard the word progress. Seeing that, Marilda then told her to forget it. She then told her to tell her. The next time she went to the camp today to help him, she originally planned what to do, how she wanted to approach him. Janica then broke into a cold sweat and said that she didn't plan anything. Marilda was really speechless hearing that. She then could only howl sadly. Hearing that, the other spirits were confused about what happened, and why Marilda was crying sadly. Hearing the stupid answer from Janica, Marilda then judged her. She asked her, does it make sense, at a time like this, at an opportunity as good as this? Does she think the moment when the man who is as cold as a refrigerator is difficult like this will come again? She then told her to look back at the speed he growing at an ridiculous speed. Did she think a moment like this could come so easily? Janica realized her stupidity. With a creepy look, Marilda then continued, there is no more guaranteed way of winning than accompanying someone in the most difficult time of his life, utilizing the role of someone who supports him in a difficult time, even if it seems a bit selfish, even if it seems a bit sneaky. Hearing that, Janica then frantically said that she had thought of a way in her mind. She then asked her to listen to her first, and she then whispered the plan she had made to her. Hearing that, Marilda felt that the plan was quite interesting. In the evening, in the dark night, after tasting Janica's cooking, Ed felt that the stew that Janica cooked was completely different in level compared to what Six cooked. It made him think that maybe he should learn to cook, but first, he had to focus on his recovery first. She had helped him a lot, and he couldn't show a tired face all the time. It couldn't be said that he was healthy now. His dizziness and fever had returned again, but when Ed was about to rest, he then saw someone who entered his cabin. That person said, "You look tired." That person was Janica. Seeing her, Ed also asked if she hadn't gone home yet. He was also confused about what she wanted to do. Janica just chuckled at his confusion. Janica then said that she doesn't want to do anything. Ed was then confused to hear that. Seeing him who was about to get up from his position, Janica then said that he didn't need to pretend that he wasn't tired. She explained, when his body is tired, his mind is also tired. Everyone feels the same way. She knew that he worked and shouldered harder than anyone else, even when she was tired and struggling. She was comforted and helped by many people, but in the end, what strengthened her the most was not someone who rushed to try to comfort her or do something, but just someone who was by her side without saying anything. She then said to him, he had worked very hard, he struggled well. Hearing that, Ed said that she didn't need to go that far. Janica then snorted at that. She then said that he had to admit that he was struggling so that he could rest well. Janica then told him to admit that he was tired. Hearing that, Ed didn't argue further and laid his body on his bed. He also admitted that everything was difficult. While falling asleep, Ed then mumbled that it was all very difficult, very difficult. Janica also smiled slightly while accompanying his sleep. The scene was very heartwarming. The next day, the sun then shone which illuminated the cabin. When Ed woke up, he was a little surprised when he saw Janica who was sleeping while drooling from her mouth. Seeing that, Ed then chuckled. He also realized the fact that his body had fully recovered. There was not much change in the details of his life skills. His magic engineering had only gone up a few levels because he got it not long ago, and he only mastered a few crafting recipes. He didn't have time to make much progress in the past 10 days as originally planned, especially researching magic engineering. Advanced crafting skills have a great impact on this stat, and its diversity can't be compared to general skills. But the problem is now, self-taught learning itself has its limits for development in magic engineering. Most of the magic engineering crafting recipes are rewards from the main scenario quests, so for someone like him who doesn't want to interfere with the story as much as possible, getting them will be difficult. But, to look at it, Taylor doesn't seem to be very interested in magic engineering. It's probably because even with the recipes, he hasn't been able to make useful magic engineering items for crafting. We need materials that are difficult to obtain until later in the original scenario, but his situation is different. Looking at him pensive, someone suddenly asked what he was thinking so loudly. That person was Lortel. She was the one who made his situation different, because with someone like her by his side, it made him able to get any material. Lortel then said that she was relieved to see him healthy again. Ed also said he was also relieved to see her healthy. Hearing that, Lortel then asked if she looked healthy. Believe it or not, she was experiencing severe fatigue at the moment. Did he know how difficult it was to tidy up her matted hair and dull skin? Lortel then sat next to him. Ed felt that she must be very busy, so he was confused why she came all the way here. Hearing that, Lortel said that she needed a break too, and there were some things she needed to tell him. Lortel said, without stepping down. Wouldn't it be strange if it was still called the Alt Store? So they plan to change the name to Faction and restructure the business. They need a joint authority to manage the staff, assets, sales flow, and external affairs together. She needs someone for that position. Ed can only be silent hearing that. He knows what she means. While blushing, she then imagines waking up in the morning and going to work to the company building, with only one wall separating them. Lortel then tries to convince him, the benefits will be great, he will hold the joint authority of Eltstore, and she would even give him a share of her personal assets. It was almost like, but Lortel immediately stopped. Before finishing her sentence, blushing, she was confused as to why she was saying something unnecessary. Hearing that, Ed then called her and said, she intends to go this far. That's a bit strange. Lortel was silent for a moment hearing that. She then said that he didn't know anything. Ed was then confused hearing that. Lortel then said, she knew very well how he felt. He must be thinking, why did she do this? He couldn't have made such a decision, taking advantage of the feelings of a young girl who was only fleeting. Lortel then asked. He must be thinking that, right, he probably wanted their relationship to remain business, but Ed seemed to want to deny that. He also thought that she didn't understand. Lortel continued, in a world where hundreds of gold coins were exchanged so easily from person to person, and if we betrayed first then we were the ones who would be betrayed later. She then asked him, what did he think was so necessary after a lifetime of always living like that, someone who would never betray us, someone who will definitely stay by her side. Lortel then took Ed's hand and continued, someone who will never betray her, even if one day all the wealth she has built up collapses, even if the whole world abandons her. For some people, such a person is their family, for others, such a person is their lover, and for others, such a person is their lifelong friend. But for Lortel, who has seen countless great merchants rise and fall, the fact that one day it could be her is a fear that is always in her heart. Lortel said that if she didn't ask for more, she then asked him, couldn't he just stay by her side? Hearing that, Ed then called out to her, and told her to wipe off her smile and speak properly. Lortel then chuckled because she felt that her plan didn't work. She was also a little sorry that it almost did. Ed knew it was because her tone in the middle was too high. It was very clear. He also called her a brat. Hearing that, Lortel just said that she was also human. She could be offended too. Even so, she then asked how it was. Did it make his feel a little initiative? When she showed such a seductive look, it should make his heart hooked, although she regretted a little, but she said that not everything she said was a lie. Lortel seemed to look sad. Ed was silent for a moment seeing that. He then said that he planned to graduate from Sylvania. Until then, he had no intention of leaving this school. Lortel was just silent hearing that, but she then grinned happily when she heard Ed say that he had not yet decided what he wanted to do after graduation. Lortel then said that he could wait until they graduated. She also asked him if he knew that he had no other choice. While showing the letter he had written, she said that maybe she should immediately use this golden opportunity. She also said that she was happy to see him after so long. Ed could only sigh helplessly hearing that, thinking about what would happen. He felt that he had done something wrong. It felt like there was something stuck in his heart. When he saw Ed's expression, Lortel felt that she almost slipped. She had wanted to express her feelings, but seeing his expression, her plan was ruined. If she had not left immediately, she would have shown a very sad face. She had even brought change to pay for the magic engineering supplies. Now, showing her face to him again would be awkward. She then planned to just put it in his cabin, and as she was walking towards the cabin door suddenly opened, and Janica then came out while yawning. She had received reports from the spirits that Ed was in the river. She felt that she should eat something light before Ed returned, but then she was surprised when she saw Lortel. Lortel did the same. Lortel then asked why she came out of the cabin. Janica also asked why she came from the direction of the river. For Ed, it was the beginning of a new disaster. The voice of the mug was heard reporting to Ed. His meat and vegetable consumption today was very lacking. He asked him to make up for it at dinner tonight, and the fluids in his body were also still lacking. Hearing that, Ed only replied that he understood. Muggs said if he fainted again, he would really die, so he asked him to live healthy. For his sake, he wanted the contractual relationship with him to be maintained for a very long time. Hearing his whining, Ed guessed that it seemed that Tarkan was scolding him, rather than that, wherever they went there was always trouble. Ed then apologized to him, so, thanks to Zix and Janica, he had stocked up enough food and firewood, and thanks to Lortel, he managed to complete the furniture. The only thing left in his mind were the 3 letters he got before he collapsed due to overwork. One was a letter from Lortel, a warning to be vigilant because who knows what Elt would do. The other was a personal letter from Princess Fenia regarding the movements of Krefin. The last one is from the Academy. The sender is an unexpected person, Professor Glast. He sent a message that he wanted to meet him in person after the conference. Unfortunately, he fainted and couldn't meet Professor Glast. Now, he can't know the reason why he called him yesterday. Professor Glast is the final boss of Act 2, and the last chapter of Act 2 has already started. He still remembers most of the last chapter of Act 2. Professor Glast always believed that only a few talented individuals can change the world. In order to resurrect the greatest sage in Sylvania history, he researched celestial magic that changed and broke the world order. To complete the celestial magic, he needed the sage's scroll, but the Sylvania Academy, which fell for Lortel's scheme, selling the sage's scroll, became desperate. He intended to steal the sage's scroll, intending to infuse the spirit of Sylvania into Isla's naturally superior body, to once again spearhead an era of progress. It was truly the story of a madman, but Taylor intervened to save Isla, breaking through the booby traps in the underground aqueduct and the secret laboratory, the Soul Library. His last words before he fell from the top of the magic tower as all his plans went awry, rather unexpectedly. Although he only dreamed of academic advancement and dedicated his life purely to finding talented individuals, his last words were, but Ed only remembered them vaguely. He had already forgotten them. Rather than that, the final battle of Act 2, the beginning of the glass showdown concerning the change of ownership of the sage's scroll with the resonance ceremony. It all started when Professor Glast kidnapped Taylor's lover, Isla. Isla looked very scared while being locked up in a dark room. Seeing her awake, someone who was in the same room as her then asked if she was awake. Hearing that, Isla then became frightened and told the person to stay away from her, while looking at the creature guarding the prison that housed them. The person said that the demon in this underground water channel was quite terrible. Hearing that, Isla misunderstood that all this was his doing. While crying, she then asked why he had the heart to do this. She hates him so much. The person is none other than Ed. Seeing her terrified look, Ed feels this is too much. They are even kidnapped together. That's right. For some reason, Ed was kidnapped. He could only sigh helplessly facing the situation. The last chapter of Act 2, the glass showdown begins.